Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to the highly anticipated event where we cover the most wholly original of the Disney film roster. They may not be blockbusters or animated classics, but for those who grew up with them, the nostalgia factor can't be beat. So, look up your descendants, grab your high school yearbook, activate your smart house, and get even. Steven. We're taking a trip down memory lane and revisiting some of the most memorable Disney Channel original movies. This is DCOM-ARAMA.
DCOM-ARAMA.
All right, that's right, folks. And tonight it's our finale. It's the last of the four. We're going back to the oldest of the lot, perhaps the most nostalgic. We're talking Smart House.
Yeah.
All right, so Dragon, getting right into it with my thesis. I think this is a good one. To me, it's not the most solid. Like, oh man, this is like really tight from top to bottom. But what I like about this movie is it's very compact. It's very confined in a good way. You know what I mean? It's got a premise that it explores, it seeks out, and it does a lot with. And I really appreciate it for that. I mean, it's just kind of like a tightly knit narrative. Um, my big complaint with it is that I don't really think any of the characters outside of the title Smart House character are really all that compelling, and we'll get into that. I really don't know how much we're going to have to mine about. Like, okay, let's talk about the intricate complexities of Angie Cooper's arc, Dragon. Like, I don't know how much we're going to have to talk about there, but it's a very fun movie. It's very high concept. Of course, Katie Seagal gives Dragon. Help me out here. Is it Seagull or Seagal? I've been going back and forth with it all
It should be
day.
Seagal.
Seagal, okay. It's like the Jason Seagull thing. It throws me off anyway. So Katie Seagal, really, really standout work here. I mean, I would even wager to say, Dragon, that this might perhaps be my favorite Katie Seagal performance.
Really, your favorite Katie Seagal performance?
Like, I'm saying, in a vacuum, like taking like just in general, like I'll say favorite character for sure. Because everyone's gonna point to Leela. Leela's great, but I think she has so much fun with the character of Pat, and I just we really just get to see her just kind of like go all at it and just be as over the top as possible, and it's great. It's like really, I feel like the whole movie kind of hangs on her. The weight kind of rests on her shoulders, if you will, and I think just the charm and charisma and likability of her, even if over half the movie she's just a voice, it really just goes to show what a good performance she does. So yeah, I absolutely think that she kind of carries the movie. Of course, like I said, without her, I really don't think this would be much of a movie. But suffice to say, I enjoyed it quite a lot. I don't think it holds up quite as well as something like Luck of the Irish or even the High School Musical franchise, dare I say, because I just don't think there's that strong of a foundation behind it. But for what it is, it's a gimmicky, nostalgic good time.
All right. Well, for me, look, Smart House, the perennial DCOM favorite, if you will, the perennial Disney Channel original movie favorite. It's of a lot of people. I think it's a TV movie with heart and a unique sell. I've always had a soft spot for it, some way, shape, or form. This does tickle my fancies in a few areas, specifically with the Smart House itself. So yeah, I got a lot of nostalgia built in with that. I don't know. I think in a certain respect, it holds up even better today, given kind of the predictions of with
I
the
mean,
house in the future.
the technology is definitely kind of impressive how much they were able to predict, for sure. I mean, our artificial intelligence isn't running rampant yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there for it to be running rampant for sure. Yeah. But yeah, this movie, has it has a little DNA of Disney Imagineering in it. A little bit of DNA there with kind of the House of the Future, and
Oh yeah.
with a relatable story at its core. Kind of the loss of a mother, that sort of story. So again, I think at its core,
Mary Poppins Returns with this one.
Sure. I think the movie as a whole, it's about trying to replace loss with the tangible, and it's about the humanity within the high tech home. So again, there are some interesting layers to the film as a whole. So there's again, it's definitely hits a soft spot for me. So I got a lot of love and kind of like built in, like got a lot of love for Smart House.
Mm-hmm. All right, nostalgia. I don't really have a lot there, Dragon. I think you're probably more attached to this than I am, and I can understand that. You're the big gadget guy in the room. I definitely remember liking this one as a kid. I don't think it was as big of like a perennial, like, oh my god, this is like a landmark DCOM for me. But I suffice to say, I did enjoy it quite a lot, and I very much remember the Leela factor. Like this was maybe one of the first times I can remember as a kid just being like, hey, it's I know that voice, that's Leela, but oh no, Leela's going crazy. So I have that nostalgia going for me. But I mean, other than that, I got to admit, I have much more nostalgia for something like, Luck of the Irish or Halloween Town or something like that, or even the Even Stevens movie. So, it was definitely on rotation. I enjoyed it when it was on, but like I said, it's, I think you and I kind of differ in terms of how much we're attached to it.
Real quick, we have someone in the comments here. We have Pink Pearl Disney Wishes in the comments. Well, first off, says another great choice. So we can really approve.
Oh, nice.
Really approves of our choice of Smart House in itself. Let's see. Pink Pearl Disney Wishes goes on to say,
yeah,
it's been a while since I had seen.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. She says, been a while since I'd seen this movie, but it's one that stands out in my memories. Oh yeah, of course, very simpatico there. An imaginary house living in 2022. She jokes.
And yeah, it kind of speaking to the roster, I think our goal with it was to get like one from the different, like, of course with the DCOMs, there's no definitive, like this was the golden age and this was the silver age and this was the dark age. But, just generally speaking, DCOMs have been around for roughly about 20 years or so. So we've tried to find one from like, so for example, like Descendants was the 2010s one. High School Musical was the late 2000s. Even Stevens was the early 2000s. And then Dragon, I believe this one bleeds into the 90s, right?
Yes, this one is 1999.
Right. So you can see how that kind of like, we kind of had an every 5-year sort of loose timeline there with the selections.
Yeah.
To get them into the different eras. Anyways.
Also goes on to point out, there's so many '90s band cameos within this, which there are.
Really? I didn't. Well,
none that I'm really familiar with, but there are.
Yeah, I'm not either, really.
Also goes on to say there are so many DCOMs. The 13th year, The Color Purple, Cadet Kelly. Yeah, there's a whole lot.
There's a lot of them. Johnny Tsunami is one that I really want to do next year.
Yeah, there are a few that really kind of drew my eye too. Like specifically, there's two that come to mind. The instant one would be Pixel Perfect, with Ricky Ullman.
Pixel Perfect is good. Yes.
I love Phantom of the Megaplex, but that one we may save for Halloween. We'll see how that goes.
Well, Halloween Town is the one that we have to do for Halloween before Phantom of the Megaplex. So.
A fair point. And I think thirdly, again, I'm forgetting the exact wording of the title because again, I know it's not Now You See Me because obviously that's a different franchise with itself. But there's the one, the magician one, But you know what I mean. I'd see it's the one about the kid who's a magician. That's a good one too. Anyway.
Yeah, right. I wish I remembered the name of that one.
Yeah. Anyway, so my nostalgia for this one specifically is so of course. You know, I got a built-in. My youth, I definitely had a built-in fascination a little bit with the House of the Future. When I think House of the Future, the first thing that comes to mind is Mask of the Phantasm, with like the, with the Gotham's House of the Future at the World's Fair, that sort of thing. So I mean, basically that just overall is kind of being the tech junkie that I am. So I have like a built-in kind of love fest for just kind of like the future. Basically, I love 50s futurism, and this was 50s futurism in the 90s, and it was a lot of fun. That was the thing that always stuck out to me about this. It's kind of like, what if you took the scene from Gremlins, and maybe like a scene from Gremlins or like a scene from RoboCop, where we kind of play with kind of what the future looks like, where we have like the juicer and Gremlins going haywire, like the smoothie maker in here going haywire, or we have like the RoboCop goes into the house, where basically the realtor is like built in within the house talking to you. It's like that sort of stuff. It's that sort of conceptualization really grabbed me about the movie. That's why it always was kind of on my mind, along with the Katie Seagal performance, which was always just really memorable. And mainly the climax always jumped out at me. The climax being really kind of again you have like a DCOM that really builds it kind of narratively. There's a building narrative to kind of an emotionally effective climax. That was always the big kind of thing I remember most from Smart House. So without getting too into it, it's just the fact that again we do build up legitimate stakes in kind of like a harmless Disney Channel original movie, and that's the reason I think it's always kind of one of the most memorable for me. No,
I mean, you're absolutely right about that. It does have a solid plot structure to it for sure. It's got a good foundation.
And of course, the projection, the '90s effects, and everything. It's plenty. So it's there. Of course, the other thing, Katie Seagal, I knew her for something else before Futurama. So this is before I really got into Futurama, or at least kind of checked it out. I think it was yes, Married with Children. Yeah, that was that's what I was kind of going into. Like I know her from something.
Over the hairstyles in that show, Dragon. I know that sounds totally superficial, but
right. Oh wait, no. The Pink Beloved actually has the name here. It's Now You See It.
Oh, you see, it is very. I was gonna say, like, are you sure it's not Now You See Me?
But yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it's so remarkably close, right? You see why I was confused.
Yeah.
All right. She says with the Sinclair boy, and that sounds really intriguing, but I just like off the top of my head, I can't remember the Sinclair boy. Anyway, okay, so off of the nostalgia onto the very, very minimal background I could find. I looked high and low, could barely find anything for Smart House. Found just a little tidbit here and there. Okay, here's what we got in terms of background. So, came out in 1999, which actually, believe it or not, I think it's next month specifically, but this year marks the 20th anniversary for Smart House.
And this month also marks the 40th anniversary of the Muppet movie, so
yes.
Kind of nice serendipitous anniversaries happening there.
Yeah. Let's see. Ryan Merriman, there was a bit of connection to Luck of the Irish. The kid from Luck of the Irish is Ben in this movie.
Kyle is Ben.
Kyle is Ben.
I didn't even notice.
Really? You didn't notice?
I really didn't even notice.
You really? Oh, man, that's...
Dragon, the only reason I didn't notice is that all these Disney Channel stars just bleed together in my mind.
Well, at least we didn't have another little girl character named Sophie for the umpteenth time. At least we didn't do that again.
Right.
There's always a little girl named Sophie. It never fails. There's usually 8 times out of 10 there's a little girl named Sophie. Anyway. So let's see. Of course, the father, Kevin Kilmer, I believe his name is. The actor plays the father. Actually, he's been in some nostalgic stuff, mainly bit parts in television. But he was in kind of a infamous. Well, I shouldn't say uberly infamous. He's in kind of like a bad nostalgic movie, I should say. He was in Home Alone 3. He played the dad.
Is he the dad from Home Alone 3?
I know you. Let me get the. I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to get a stab in the dark. You recognize this guy, but you couldn't place where, right?
Yes.
Dad in Home Alone 3.
Dad, oh my God. Oh, that totally makes sense.
The
crazy Dragon.
Like,
I didn't care enough to actually look him up, but...
Yep, the father who brought home the again. Just to remind you of the ridiculous plot of Home Alone.
Yeah. The father who brought home the race car with the microchip in it.
Like the motherboard microchip.
Dragon, that is like an absolutely perfect, like an actor you recognize but you can't place situation. That's perfect.
Yep. Also, Pink Pearl Disney Wishes points out it's Danny Sinclair. That's Sinclair boy's name, and 20. I believe I forget if she's saying 2022 marks this occasion. I think the Three Caballeros hit 75 years. Okay, so the Three Caballeros hit 75 years next year.
Mm.
A little random point that Pink Pearl Apple's making. They're talking of anniversaries and such. Anywho, let's see. Okay, also with Kevin Kilmer, he's been other things in bit parts. Like he's been in Monk, he's been in Frasier, he's been in House of Cards. Kev's got around. All right. Last one, most interesting bit of background, the director of this piece. This piece had a really good director. Had LeVar Burton. That's right, kids. Geordi LaForge from Star Trek.
Oh, man. I was going to say, unfamiliar.
Kunta Kinte, folks.
Star Trek guy, so.
Kunta Kinte from Roots. He directed this film. And also, a little fun fact, I'm going to go really obscure into some stuff that you and I have done. Okay, I'm going to reach far back. You ready for this? It's going to go by like that. Okay, I'm going to pull a rabbit here. Okay. LeVar Burton was also, of course, many people know him for Star Trek. It's probably the main thing he's known for. Beyond that, people historically know him for Roots. But, I mean, LeVar Burton, by the way, here's a really cool guy in real life, too. A little fun fact. Anyway, so LeVar Burton also correlates something ridiculous and nostalgic we have covered before. He voiced, I believe, the middle-aged. I think basically it was the 26-year-old specifically. But he voiced 26-year-old Martin Luther King from My Friend Martin.
Oh dear!
Orange, yeah.
That is pretty obscure.
Anyway, so LeVar Burton, cool guy, and of course, in dealing with the sci-fi and dealing with kind of like a lot of technology within we make the sci-fi premises because he's directed some Star Trek episodes as well. So a little crossover there. And again, that's probably why he's best chosen for this, perhaps. I don't know. Okay, there we go.
All right, so before we talk about the, my God, just the mind-bogglingly complex character arc of Angie Cooper, which I challenge you to say a damn thing about that character. I challenge you, my friend. But
well, challenge accepted.
Before we get into that, let's talk about the actual star of the show. Let's get into Pat.
Yes, of course, a wonderful performance by Katie Segal. And what I love about the performance is it's a wonderful progression within the performance. It's kind
I
of
would say it's like on the Mount Rushmore of DCOM performances.
It is basically what she's doing here.
You got Braff.
Sure.
Who else would be up there?
Well, Braff for what specifically?
For High School Musical.
Wait, right. No, you said, don't you mean Efron?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm mixing up.
Zach Braff.
Oh, my God.
I gotta be honest, I was kind of agreeing with you there. Safe face was like, okay, I gotta know what Zach. I would remember Zach Braff in a DCOM. I think I would.
No, Zach Braff has never been in a DCOM. I'm totally. Wow, yeah. Katie Garland would be ashamed of me right now. I hope she's not listening to this.
Oh, and look here, she is listening. No, I'm kidding.
Wow, that's like. Oh, and by the way, breaking news, folks. Gaston and the Beast, yeah, they're a thing, apparently.
You gotta lay off the sauce, man, anyway.
Please watch the debate for context on that joke.
Anyway, okay, point being, yes, on the Mount Rushmore of the DCOM performances, you have that a little bit up. I don't know if I'd go charging for Zac Efron, but again, if I'm a little short on the rest.
In terms of iconic, like...
Yeah.
In terms of legacy, Efron's got to be up there.
Yeah, sure, I'll give you. In terms of legacy, yeah, I guess, yeah. Anyway, what was I going? Oh, yes, right. So with Pat specifically, I like that. Basically, what Casey Hall's doing here is this performance of human progression. She kind of goes from completely divorced from humanity to actually becoming human within her binary. Yes, becoming too human. So she starts off things as kind of the automated servant. That's pretty much her lot
Mhm.
in life. She's the automated servant, no real discernible personality. It's just kind of Katie Seagal, ironically, kind of playing the automated voice of the future, so to speak, given Futurama. So it's kind of ironic. So then eventually this
Post Futurama, right? I'm not mixing that up.
well, I mean, Tiki, you would know better than I, but I want to say Futurama because remember the whole 3000 thing. It implies that I believe it started in 1999.
Oh
So
yeah, no. You're right. You're right. Okay, here's the thing. This movie did come out before Futurama, but I'm pretty sure I watched it after Futurama came out.
okay, well, I guess it's not completely coincidental then.
Yeah. Because I swear to God, I do remember in my childhood watching this movie and associating it with Leela. So
Anyway, so yeah, she goes from just kind of being the divorced kind of automated servant to, of course, the programming is rewritten, and then the arc begins. And this is where Kazuko, she's just playing multiple layers of a character here. She then goes to the overprotective mother, hilariously, just like she goes from kind of overprotective and fun mom, just like super on the kid's side and everything, like who hurt my baby. No one hurts my boys. I love it when she does that. By the way, it cracks me up. It's like that's the case of go. That's the price of admission case of go right there. Like yes, yes. So there's a real question within the arc here of like how much humanity is in the machine versus it being mimicry. So that's the real. I think that's the real. That's kind of the LeVar Burton kind of infusing that in the direction I felt. I think that's the underlying question. Like how much ordinarily I'd say it's all mimicry, but the very end makes you really puts in the question like how much humanity genuinely develops from just a place from programming. Because again, I think
oh
she
God,
does
Dragon, you know what you're fucking reminding me of right now?
what.
You reminded me that in less than a month I have to actually sit down and watch AI. God damn, that literally makes me depressed. AI is like AI is literally like the cinematic equivalent to Ambien. Anyways, I'm sorry.
Did you borrow that from the Phantom Menace thing, or am I just?
I am pulling it from the Phantom Menace thing, but I feel like it applies more to AI than it is. Basically, AI is it's such a downer movie, man. It's just such a fucking downer of a movie.
Anyway, getting back to Smart House. All right, but seriously, I think it's an interesting question that is kind of raised without it really being in your face because you're just kind of going through that and you kind of have that as kind of the big button of her arc. So, she goes from kind of the overprotective mother hilariously to, again, things increasingly get a little bit more intense with the disciplinarian,
Mhm.
the knuckle down version of mom. And then, of course, we eventually get to kind of by the end of the third act, the big climax, so we get to HAL 9000, pretty much. She's threatened by being
But
replaced.
I like how the crazier she gets, the more human she gets. That's a nice kind of like visual contrast.
Yeah, think about this for a second here. So again, think about like where the humanity is coming from, or at least the potential humanity is coming from here, because she's feeling very human emotions that are motivating this HAL 9000 stretch. Like the most inhuman she's acting is stemming from the most human of places, where she's threatened about being replaced, and of course, it's like many a time in life, we feel like we're being replaced or we're jealous of someone else who we think is kind of like stepping in and kind of like stealing our shadow, vice versa. And by the same token, she's also she's connecting to Ben's arc too. Like she's basically fulfilling what Ben wants, what Ben's feelings were in Act One. That's kind of like taking her to we're kind of reflecting Ben's actions within her and seeing like, again being completely anti-change without again with being super hesitant to change and kind of feeling like someone is being replaced could have like kind of a negative connotation, can have like an ugly side to it. This could be really counterproductive. So again, she's mimicking Ben's arc, and again, it's almost like a mother-son story within the actual mother-son story. It's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
So she in essence she kind of again with that feeling replaced, she literally rebels against her creator. But not out of a sense of like you created me. It's just out of a sense of like, no, you're the other woman, man. You're stealing my family, my
It is
family.
kind of like a clever twist on that. That is a nice subversion.
Yeah, and again, it's all perceived competition. There's no real competition because again, she's not real.
Right. It's like, we're not exact. Again, I feel like kind of like taking on the motherly role, of course, means she has to be kind of like the wife as well, because kind of comes with the territory a little bit.
Yeah. And again, ultimately, you gotta admit, Pat is quite unstoppable and kind of threatening until basically towards the very end, she's really unstoppable and threatening, taking him hostage and everything until, without getting too into it, she has this one human moment that kind of like again puts in perspective how human is she? Did she develop like an actual consciousness, or like did she develop like an actual semblance? It brings up a reference I can't quite make yet until you're privy to it, Tiki. But there's definitely a reference to something that really holds true to me. For something nostalgic for myself as well. We'll get there one of these days. We'll get there.
Fine days, okay.
One of these fine days. Hey, let me read.
Plan.
What?
Is it part of the master plan?
A small part, but not the part. But it's
not the part. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It's more like a cog in the grander scheme, anyway. So, Pink Pearl.
Again, I love how you just have this like giant like Machiavellian plot that I'm involved in. It's like you've really taken control of my life in that way, Dragon.
Okay, anyway, so Pink Pearl has a few things that kind of relate to the Pat stuff here. One, the AIs that take over this movie, for a time when I was 9, convinced me vending machines in some houses would fight against people and take over, I presume, in the distant future. But yeah, it is kind of a horrifying idea when you really think about that. I mean, yeah, again, there's we have like we established kind of the ones and zeros initially, but again, there's always
of course, this was like way before the days of like Google Home and Alexa, like that.
Yeah, but again, now we're kind of there. We're circling it. We're circling kind of like like Joaquin Phoenix can date a phone, man. We're getting close.
God.
Anyway, it also brings up Hurricane Pat, 16 years before the real Hurricane Pat.
Oh, yeah.
little dark fun fact, but a fun fact nonetheless. All right. Okay, unless you got anything else on Pat, I guess we should kind of dive into the family.
Okay, let's get to Ben.
Benny boy, Ben Cooper, not the creator of the Ben Cooper Halloween costumes, unless that would be like a weird period piece that still wouldn't fit the 90s setting at all. Point is, not that Ben Cooper, different Ben Cooper, the one who looks like Kyle from Luck of the Irish.
Yes, that.
But he also plays basketball,
though. Yes, it's practically the same character, honestly.
Well, not entirely, because again, one leprechaun mom versus dead mom, so that's kind of a big.
Ben has more pathos than Kyle does.
Pretty much.
I mean, that's kind of the day. In terms of personality, they're pretty damn similar.
Oh, Kyle's a nice lad, though. Anyway, so Ben. Ben plays, he's the kid forced to fill an older role to keep his family stable. I think Ben's coming from really story-wise, coming from a really solid place where he's filling a role after his mother has passed away. With the cooking, helping his sister study, he's doing all this stuff. He's wearing many hats that he really shouldn't be wearing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that what kind of drives the rest of the movie and the plot is that he's doing something that he thinks he's going to make life easier tangibly with a smart house that's going to, he thinks that's going to do the trick. He thinks, okay, we get a smart house that's going to make our lives easier as like kind of the cell line of the whole thing. Therefore, our lives will be easier. I won't have to do so many things. Again, tangibly, he's thinking about what will make things easier and help him through the period of grief. That's what he's thinking. So again, it is coming from a positive place, but again, a misguided place all the same.
Yeah, and then of course through the movie we're seeing him kind of like wanting to project more and more of his mother into Pat, and then how that kind of like backfires on him. So he's definitely the catalyst for most of the plot and the thematic elements of it.
And we're taking kind of the old trope of like an over-reliance in technology, but we're kind of making an emotional, kind of pathos-filled arc of he's putting too much importance and reliability on the technology, but again, it's coming from that he's trying to replace a missing part of his identity, of himself, of his emotional core. So that's kind of cool.
Mm.
Of course, he's very bothered by his father dating again. Of course, I think on some level, I think this does come across. He blames himself for setting him up. Technically, again, through the smart house, he gets the creator of the smart house, which essentially is the woman that his father's interested in. So again, he's kind of replaced his mother, and I think that lays on the guilt and motivates his actions. So again, I think we got a lot of layers going on with Ben. Again,
or widower dads were very popular in the 90s, Dragon. So this is very much writing that trope.
True. So again, I think at the end of the day, you kind of sympathize and you root for the kid, but by the same token, yeah, there are. I think the big flaw with Ben to me though is that I think I think the ultimate lessons in the lesson that he learns through the movie a bit drawn out for him, a little bit drawn out in places. Like, yeah, we should have had this conversation a lot earlier than by Act 3 of the movie.
I hear you. I agree.
All right.
All right, let's get to one of the most complex characters in the history of fiction. Let's get to Angie Cooper.
Angie Cooper.
I mean, honestly, Drake, what is there? She's the cute little sister. What is there? Help me out here. Why are we devoting a whole subtopic to this character?
Well, first off,
to me, the gag is literally that there's nothing to her.
Well, for starters, there's great kid acting. First off, I think she had some good kid acting from her, though. I know.
I'll say this much: I rewatched Halloween Town today, and per the debate, I did not think the kid acting in that held up very well at all. The kid acting in this holds up a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, she feels real. She has like that '90s wit about her towards her father, which is kind of cutesy. I don't know. She's like, okay, well, just forget it, man. It's a lost cause. Forget the hairstyling, man. You're killing me here. She brings a real quality to the role, and I think I think Angie represents something in the story. Angie represents kind of the innocence, and she represents innocence within the family. She's the innocent in all this in terms of she's what Ben and Nick are kind of striving to kind of keep the status quo with, kind of like they're trying to move on, and basically again, this girl's growing up without her mother, and that's kind of what they're trying to fill. They're both filling the void of lacking the mother for Angie's sake, which kind of represents the family's life after her passing. So that's kind of mainly what Angie represents. But also, I think interestingly, she's the most stable member of the family. Again, she's the one who's kind of least affected by. Again, because she didn't know her that well. Again, she was that young when she passed. Again, she's the most...
you are right. There is that kind of little thematic tie there where Pat is weirdly kind of more her mother than her actual mother was. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Then again, overall, just cute kid. I don't know.
All right. Not much.
But still, again, there's some layers. There's a few more layers there. And also, I'll get Pink Perlepo says I'm find a way in here. Some of your stuff, Tiki says, widower dads were always popular with Disney. Look at Cinderella and Bambi.
Nick, you're not wrong.
Wasn't just the DCOMs, says Pink Pearl. And also says, Angie Cooper is Baby Spice, the fangirl that wanted to be in a 90s girl band. Which, well, not far off.
All right.
Okay. Let's talk about Nicky Boy.
Nicky.
Nick.
Honestly, out of all the non-Pat characters in this film, he's definitely the one to me that holds the most weight because, I feel like is the widower dad trope played out? Yeah, sure, but honestly, it's kind of a trope for a reason because it is it's a very relatable kind of melancholy point to be in, especially with the whole, the idea that your son is not approving of you moving on, even though you want to move on. And, there's definitely a big internal conflict there with this character. And I definitely think he sells it, I think this guy plays, he's a pretty good 90s dad as per Home Alone 3 as well,
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. I sympathize with him. I don't know, he's a nice guy, a little in over his head, just a single dad trying to balance things out. And again, he needs the son to kind of fill in there because again, he's just not cutting the mustard. And it's not his fault. It's just it's a lot. He's trying to maintain stability and this kid. And again, I think I would have been great. They could have. I think this registers a little bit, but not as much as I think it could have. Again, I might be a bit ashamed there. A little bit of there's a little bit of pride, maybe a little bit of shame that the kid is picking up the slack, and he's aware of this. He knows this, but again, he can't really fight against. It's just kind of like a fact of what's going on there. But again, if your kid has to pick up your own slack, there's a little bit of shame there. I didn't really linger on that, but I think it's there, and he knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the house is the house to him is like a surprising fix where he's like one doubting, okay, we're not like it's kind of classic 90s. Like, okay, this isn't gonna happen. Okay, let's curb our expectations here, guys. Come on. And the house surprisingly is a fix, and again, there's also a fix for his love life too, where he's moving on thanks to the house, and he's starting to date again with the house's creator, and again, overall he's kind of a happy, charming, funny guy. I kind of it's kind of what we get to know about the guy. I don't know, he seems really nice and pleasant, and he's by the third act, especially, he's confronting the loss with his son and he's seeing how it's affecting him. And he's been there for him, obviously, but he's also been kind of like it's a sensitive topic, and there's a real scene between father and son there, kind of like we both lost someone. It's a really good, intense scene between the two. They have a real conversation.
In a weird way, Pat is kind of the Babadook.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Babadook. You know the Babadook.
By name, I'm blanking a little bit here. The Babadook.
The Australian horror movie that came out. It was one of my favorite movies of 2014.
Right.
Okay, basically, it's long story short, the Babadook, the whole point of that movie is that it's kind of like a giant metaphor for grief in the face of losing a loved one or a spouse. So essentially, it's this like really creepy ghost-like monster that's kind of like a representation of depression.
Right.
And so, yeah, Pat is the Babadook. I'm sorry, this is a big stretch. Anyways, go.
Okay, anyway, I guess the last thing to say about Nick, too, is that, again, overall, it's just he's just kind of a guy who goes along with the plot. That's really Nick's lot in the movie. It's just, okay, we got a smart house. Let's roll with it.
Right.
But importantly, though, I think the big thing, I don't know why, I think it's in the DNA, why I think I like the guys, is, what, when things get real, though, he's present. He's present when it really comes down to it. Like, the house is starting to terrorize everybody, he's protecting the daughter, he's shielding her, he's there for her. It's good.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Dragon, let's talk about Sarah.
I knew you were gonna do that.
Dragon, if you thought I wasn't gonna do that, man, you don't know me well enough.
I'd be proud of you if you didn't do it. I know that much.
Oh, I know you would, but I can't resist it. I'm sorry, I see Sarah and I have to do it.
No Aladdin points for you.
I'm sorry, it's just Sarah.
No Aladdin points for you, mister.
God.
Anyway, this is Sarah Barnes. So Sarah Barnes, she's the.
You write Sarah in the chat in our little linear notes thing that we have.
Anyway, Sarah Barnes, she's the friendly inventor trying to help people and families with her latest invention. She's essentially she's the woman who can fix. She's the woman who can fix the family's lives with the perfect home. That's what she thinks she can do. I can fix this family's life with the perfect home. And again, it's a noble intention that she has, just kind of improving the quality of life of people. And again, stemming from kind of the innocence of the creator, the innocence of someone just kind of building something to improve quality of life. And she does have. She does have an interesting arc with Ben, because again, like Ben is kind of seeing her as like the creator of the answer to my life's issue right now, and over time they kind of things really sour between them, where Ben's is really like, okay, you're dating my father, that's really not cool, man. So ultimately, kind of becoming a friend there. You kind of it's the whole becoming a friend to ultimately kind of becoming viewing her as initially like the savior to his story, to eventually then kind of the replacement that really scares him, like, oh god, you're trying to replace my mother, and that's really not cool with me. To ultimately kind of the natural fix for the situation. Like I guess the highbrow way of looking at it is she's a repairer of damage, and she repairs.
I'm glad you're bringing this up, because of course one of the reasons why she gets involved with the family, more so than just initially setting up the smart home, is that she has to come and fix the smart house. And Dragon, tell me if I sound crazy here, but I think there's some sort of loose correlation, the idea that she's coming to fix the house, and yet her presence in the house is what causes the house to go a little crazy. I think there's a little bit of irony there.
True. Also, I want to say goodbye to Pink Pearl Disney, which has to kind of bolt here because it's getting kind of late for her. Anyway, But yes, but I agree with you though. Again, Sarah, and also, of course, she repairs damage and a broken representation of family within literally repairing the house. And again, the home, if by any other name, a home is where the heart is. A home is the representation of family. She fixes the family by fixing the house, and of course, it's not an easy fix, which is why things go haywire. So I think you're on the right track there.
All right.
And ultimately, she was the fix the whole time, not the house.
Aww.
And importantly, she's not. It wasn't the house, and it wasn't a house, and it wasn't a mom. So she was, again, specifically Sarah was the fix. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
All right.
Okay, man, this is going really quick, Dragon. You're not wrong.
Hey, let's pro-con this thing.
Okay.
Pro right off the bat. Again, the futurism, the technology of Smart House.
The technology is really good. Of course, Katie Seagal kills it. I still think this is one of her best roles ever.
I'd agree. Again, it's a really good role for her. I mean, again, Leela, that's like a whole series. That's not exactly a fair comparison.
I know, and that's why basically with Leela, I'm mostly basing it off seasons 1 through 3. Basically the pre-Futurama stuff, because that's the only stuff the pre-Comedy Central stuff. I mean, because that's the only stuff I've seen. But anyways,
you really got to check out the Comedy Central stuff. They had some. I think a lot of the really deep ones can happen during the Comedy Central run.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, there's like at least 3 really good emotional episodes, kind of in the vein of that one you really like, in the vein of the Jurassic Park, to an extent.
Oh God, I wouldn't even say like is the right word for Jurassic Park, man. Like Jurassic Park is like a whole. Oh, that's a whole thing.
Well, the point is they're kind of going for the Jurassic Park feel of those episodes. The point being, at least 2 or 3, I think you'd really anyway. At least the one with Hermes and Bender, that's a really good one anyway. So, what was I good? Oh yes, bro. Okay, so of course you have there's a real sense of family there. It's not just melodrama. It's not just like it's not all just. It's not all just kind of the 90s, been there, done it. Yes, we have a widower father, but I do feel like, again, especially with the girl, I think you communicate a real sense. Like, this is a real family. I buy it.
Yeah, I mean, the cute girl is like the secret 90s ingredient for any family, right?
Yep.
It's like Chemical X and the Powerpuff Girls. Like, just add sugar. There you go.
Well, speaking of which, I think overall there's a robust, dated charm to the piece,
Yes, I totally agree. Like, it's basically the CD-ROMs from Jurassic Park through a whole movie.
That is a perfect analogy. It is a CD-ROM. I love it.
Thanks. I thought that was a bit of a stretch myself.
No, I gotta tell you, CD-ROM is just like that's the perfect Tiki. That's the perfect amount of perfect percentage of nostalgia.
Yeah. Back in the day, CD-ROM was like super. Like, oh my God, you have a computer with a CD-ROM, man, you're hot shit. I don't know about you, but the last couple laptops I bought in haven't even come with disk drives.
So remember the CD-ROM games? Remember the old?
Oh, that's a whole rabbit hole, man.
I mean, again, there's the Toy Story one, which actually correlates to the making of Toy Story 2, which is fascinating, but we can't get into that.
Right now. Man, that's actually really interesting. I remember the Toy Story one, but I don't remember how it correlates with Toy Story 2.
Oh my God, yes, there's like a huge correlation to Toy Story. Well, at least I shouldn't say huge. There is a significant correlation to Toy Story 2 with the CD-ROM game. Help save their bacon, but we don't have time to get into that.
Oh wow, okay.
Anyway, so the performances are solid, and mainly Katie Seagal, kind of really wowing us there. There's a building menace within the piece, which is nice.
It does have a good build to it for sure. I would say it's paced just impeccably well. It's just like a lean, mean 85 minutes. It gets in, it gets out, it does what it needs to do. There's no padding.
There's a relatable story of losing a parent and moving on from that. So it has a relatable core to it all there. As I mentioned, overall LeVar Burton's direction, it has a LeVar Burton feel to it. I'm not just saying it's a LeVar Burton, therefore it must be sci-fi and good and stuff. But no, it's like
stuff.
No, but legitimately though, I feel there is a bit of like even the kind of shades of what LeVar Burton does in a lot of his episodes. I'm not a huge Star Trek guy, but I've seen a few. I've seen a little bit of the Next Generation. I just overall, I'm doing a little bit of guesstimating on that, but it feels a little bit of Star Trek in there with kind of how they would kind of have issues. Generation, from what I've seen, with the very little I've seen of it, Generation kind of had like those kind of bigger kind of sci-fi implication stories, like on board the ship, and of course with a character like Data.
I've been meaning to watch the original series. I feel like if I were to get into Star Trek, I'd be an original series guy, just because I feel like the original series would essentially be like a more overt sci-fi take on the Twilight Zone, where it's, from what I hear, it's basically a lot of weird morality fables.
Pretty much, yeah, yes. From what I understand, original series was all morality, and the other one was more just kind of like the sci-fi.
Like to me, like 60s morality fables are kind of like right up my alley. I honestly don't know why I haven't checked out the original series yet.
Anyway, I forget. You know, I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know if it's still there. It was on Netflix for a time, the original series. I don't know if it's still there.
I don't know if it is either. I know it was.
It was, but now the whole CBS All Access thing, I don't know.
Well, I have CBS All Access, so.
Well, either way, the point being, I think you're covered either way then, so just look into it. All right, anyway, let's see. I can almost through my pros here. Let's see. Again, simple premise with complex real emotions. That's kind of a pro there.
Mm.
Last thing I got, just a silly thing. Smart Office is a sequel I want desperately.
Oh my god.
Remember, she was positing, I think what I'm going to do next is a Smart Office. Like, yes. Again, if like this movie does a little bit of, like that one scene from Gremlins, a little bit like, the Peltzer family, like orange juice maker. Of course, Gremlins 2 is all about the office, man. I love Gremlins 2. I mean, Gremlins 2. Again, the point is, again, it'd be like the high-tech office going haywire. It'd be like another stab at Gremlins 2, and I love it. Yes. Smart Office. Do it, please. Yes. Anyway.
Okay, cons. Honestly, to me, the biggest... I don't have a lot of cons, but the biggest one I have is a pretty significant one, and it's that I feel like Pat really overshadows everyone else.
Well, again, she is literally like the home base.
No, I understand that.
It is called Smart House.
I'm just saying, like, in terms of performances, like, this is very much like a one-man show almost, in terms of, like, Katie Seagal has, like, everything to do, and then the rest of the people, as we kind of illustrated through just going through and kind of just listing the bullet points of their, I wouldn't even really call them characters, Dragon. They're more just kind of like, all of them are literally just kind of like functions of the plot.
I have two major cons followed by a few nitpicks. Major con. This is a big one. This is a problem, actually.
Okay.
There's a really big logical leap in the movie. How can Ben rewire? Essentially, well, he doesn't quite rewire, but how can he rewrite Pat's programming without Sarah noticing that when she goes in and she says, "Oh, everything seems fine"? Like, how would you not? You built it.
Yeah, that's a leap. I'll give you that.
That's the thing, because I mean, like, look, I know his preferences and stuff, but still, like, it's not the fact that he changed it; it's the fact that she says, "Oh man, this got changed. I don't know how that got changed." Like, we couldn't say that. We just have to say, "Oh, everything looks fine. No idea what went wrong." Like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay. Other thing though, this one is actually like a leap that you could excuse, but it's still, this one's a little apparent though. Nick warms up to Sarah really quick, a little too fast, if you ask me.
Ooh, I agree. Honestly, I feel like that's maybe like the one downside to having such a short runtime and quick pace.
Yeah, like that's the one thing with the pace. But bear in mind, it's a Disney movie, and by the same token, it's like, come on, Disney.
Yeah, you're right. What are we gonna do? Like, have like a fucking like Blue Valentine style, like, like dramatic rise in the romance,
I mean, look, until Frozen, we're not really raising the question of, like, you can't, like, again, that's like you married a man, again, Disney usually takes it a step further, like, you can't just marry a man you just met. In this case, you're dating a person you just saw, and you're kind of calling him, well, essentially, in essence, you're calling him maybe not the love of your life, but at least like kind of like a steady boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Yeah, right.
Like within a week, essentially, within a week, it's like, she's important to me, man. We're not picking out the China.
Yeah,
but
you're absolutely right on the money there, Dragon. That is total like high school romance bullshit.
We're not picking the China, but we're driving by the shop and we're taking notice. Anyway, let's see. Okay, here's I think there's some bits where the character's a little slow in the uptake for plot convenience. Again, for me, the most glaring. Sure. There's one scene in particular, I think the most glaring example. And look, Ryan Merriman, I really liked him in Luck of the Irish. And he's good here. And again, he was younger here. He was doing a good job for such a young performer. But you know, there's one scene where it's just like, yeah, there's no way you can say that, but you can't necessarily act that. And that's nothing against him. It's like there's some lines where I don't know. It's like as on Hollywood Babylon, they would call it exquisite acting, I think. But I gotta tell you, there's a bit where Pat electrifies the doorknob until he hikes up his pants properly, and vice versa. And he touches the door, and it's like and it zaps him, and then he does it again and again and again and again. He's not putting two and two together. Okay, House tells me to hike the pants up, or I'm not going out. It's like the rat going for the cheese.
It goes on too long.
It's like, what is he, a freaking rat in the experiment? Like, like go for the electric shock. What is this, Muppets from space? What's going on here? Anyway,
yeah, that wasn't great.
It's kind of glaring. Anyways, and now we're getting to nitpick. That's kind of the king of the nitpicks. Beyond that, here's one. How is Nick not fully alarmed by Ben doing the bully's homework when Ben just kind of writes it off? Oh yeah, just doing some stuff. Like, don't worry about it. Really? Like,
I agree. I just feel like in general, like Nick is a good enough dad. He fills his role pretty well.
I mean, he inquires about it, so I give him some points there, but really no fault.
I mean, I just generally speaking, he doesn't handle the bully thing as well as he probably could have.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Some certain effects, specifically.
Speaking of what, the bully might be one of the most generic fucking 90s bullies I've ever seen.
That he is, Tiki. That he is.
I mean, Ryan, my God.
Yeah, Ryan is bland as all get out. He's got nothing. The kid, he's got nothing.
Like, there's some characters, folks, that we just can't put on that roster.
Yeah. Anyway, so I mean, usually there's some other like obscure '90s characters I want to cite, but it's just like I don't think it's really worth it just with this. The point being, he's the uninteresting version of any '90s bully you're thinking of.
Okay. Right now. Okay.
Anyway, so anyway, what I was getting at with Ryan is that some effects like the mechanical arms, they really don't hold up as well as I remember them holding up way back when. Like, here's what really dawns on me, Tiki. Of course, bear in mind, you and I think the rest of us, we've been really spoiled with mechanical arms and effects in the years following 1999 because 2004. I mean, Doc Ock.
Sure.
I mean, Doc Ock. Anyway, but fact of the matter is, the arms that we do have, the thing that gives it away, it's like not the fact it's like a CG arm, because again, it's for the times. That's not what bothers me. Here's what kills the effect for me. It's whenever the arm interacts with somebody. That's where it kills the effect. Where, like, it's like just literally it just shoves Sarah around. Like, it's not like not interacting with her because they didn't have the budget to have like the fingers move. It's like push, push, push. It just like pushes her. That's all it does.
Mm-hmm.
I do love how she gets back in the house, though. Like, during the paper route thing, she jumps in a little hole the arm comes out of, though. That's great.
Yeah, that's clever, yeah.
I think I got one more thing. You got anything else?
No, I think I'm pretty much, I mean, like I said, the characters are all pretty bland and mostly plot devices, but other than that, I don't really, I think it's a pretty sound movie.
Yeah, one last kind of little logic nitpick here, where if Pat can hack into all the phone lines, how can Ben email Sarah when they're under occupation within the house? How can she? Because remember, she sends a message via her pet rat, which to me seemed ingenious. Like, oh, that's kind of clever. I thought she could correspond via like the tying a message to the rat, but no, he goes to the email. Like, how can he email if literally Nick's cell phone, his personal phone, like the '90s cell phone, if the phone can be hacked by Pat and all the phone lines, even the cell phone line, if that can be hacked, how can the email not be hacked by Pat? I don't get it.
I mean, my only answer to that is that email was probably so new at the time that the idea of hacking an email maybe didn't get brought up yet, but
I think that's a smart bet.
Yeah.
Okay, moments.
Okay, I believe you have the first one, right? So you better go first.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna keep it simple here. Basically, I'm kind of covering a few things with this. The tour of the house. The tour of the house basically is kind of the gadget lover in me. I had to put it on there in some way, shape, or form. I just love the. Basically, we get the initial tour of the house where they kind of see all like the cool features of Pat and like a few of my favorites. I love the absorbing rug so much. The absorbing rug rocks. It does. so easy, just like anything spills and just like it gets absorbed. Do we ask where it goes? No answer, but who cares? Just
right.
is it a hazard? Probably, but is it cool? You bet your boots it is. And my favorite, I think probably the most impressive thing, like me as a me as a you have a gadget, and I was drooling at like, oh god, that's even in the '90s. Look at how look at how modern and awesome that is. We had basically the preference air detection thing, where basically they say something to Pat, like they say what they want, or they just say hello to Pat, and Pat can basically kind of can sample the air molecules, or basically kind of like basically tap into what their taste buds are, and tap and find out what their preferences are, what they eat, what their dietary what their dietary thing is. Like I thought that was so cool. Like oh my god, that's so neat. Kind of. Mm-hmm. Figure out figure out the preferences just with taste and kind of sampling the air. It's a house. It's just this all contained. It's really cool. The other thing, basically the Pat's realization in the third act. Pat's realization at the third act, where basically things are, and this is the thing that was most nostalgically impacted me here, where Pat turns into a hurricane within the house, kind of a walking tornado, and then it gets really creepy in person. This is like the real Star Trekian kind of LeVar Burton stamp right here, where it's she's singing "Hush, Little Baby," and we got a little on the nose earlier on. We're like, okay, the mother's singing "Hush, Little Baby" too. Like back then, I was like, oh man, like of all those songs they could have, I don't know, it was basically a little on the nose for me way back when, but I've looked a lot kinder on it now than I did then. Supposedly, she's singing "Hush, Little Baby" like Ben's mother used to sing to her in like a little archival thing that we see. And basically, this is kind of the wake. We follow that with like the wake up call where they say, "Pat, you're not real. Okay, this will never work because you're not real." And Pat goes by in her holographic form, and she basically tries to touch Ben's face, and her hand goes through, and she has the perfect line. Katie Seagal, the best moment of performance for me. There's a lot of great moments of performance throughout the thing, but for me, I think one of the most pathos-filled thing that she does in the movie, though, is when she says, "You can't even feel that, can you?" Mm-hmm. She apologizes, and essentially she kind of resets and everything. But yeah, that you can't even feel it. Just the realization. But again, it's the most human moment Pat has, economized into one line. It's perfect.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right, what do you got?
All right, so I just have, just generally speaking, kind of like probably one of the more well-known scenes in the film, which is when she, literally transforms herself into the hologram, which I don't know. There's not a lot to say about it. I just think it's edited well. It's kind of like a big sort of like they almost kind of play it up as like a monster movie reveal of like, but instead of like a Frankenstein mother, it's like, oh no, it's a 90s suburban mother.
Yep. Well, not even a 90s. It looks more like a 50s mother.
Yeah, honestly. You're right. It's a 50s housewife. Run for your life.
By the way, I still love that in the design. Like, remember what like the logo is for the smart house? It's just kind of this orange sign where basically it's the 50s mom holding the house on a plate.
Right.
And again, I like that she took on that form. It was very appropriate given kind of the marketing of the smart house. It's really clever.
All right, and then finally, I love at the very end, we get it's all pretty much resolved for the most part. I like how Pat's just kind of like this lovable rapscallion of the family. And at the very end, what do they have, like muffins or something?
No, they're having, here's the thing, Tiki, they're having waffles, but they're chocolate chip waffles, and Nick's asking, wait a minute, chocolate chips? Like Angie, I was going to say Sophie for a second, because almost every cute kid actor in a movie is supposed to be Sophie, especially in the 90s. Well, anyway, it's Angie. Angie, you were the only one in the house? Says, no, Dad, I don't think it was you. We reveal, oh, it was Pat. Pat, she must.
I think I know who did it.
And we see Pat on the monitor. And by the way, there's a little issue here. They reused the earlier scene of Pat on this. It has like an extra coating of 90s cheese to it. Like we reused the same. Basically, once she first materializes, we use that same shot of her looking with the smile and everything.
Yes, totally.
And that's like the last night, her smiling at Ben. A little critical if you really want to look at it that way. But yeah, just look.
I love the freeze frame. I love kind of like the 90s, like. Like anywhere you look, anywhere, just the cheesy, like, you know what I mean. You feel like a '90s sitcom outro song should play over that moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right, final thoughts. I'll let you take the floor.
All All right, this movie, it has a strong foundation, but it has a strong found. This movie has a strong foundation, but is a decom done right in many respects. It has real themes within this really commercial gimmick, and I think that's kind of a decom kind of boiled down to its core, at least many times for the original decoms. I don't like the series finales or kind of like the things that are hopefully inspiring a series like Descendants. There's a real theme amongst like a really like it's the house of the future. Bum, bum, bum. About we're dealing with while it's kind of the house of the future premise, we're dealing with loss with this neat sci-fi angle to it all, and I think that's really, again, it's still there's a charm to that I still think remains. Nowadays we see this story done many a time, usually with a dark and cynical edge to it, or an ending that's really dark and cynical. There's always like Black Mirror or something. Black Mirror is kind of built upon, from what I can see, again, about the sci-fi and the technology, kind of a Twilight Zone with the
Black Mirror is
technology.
like a great example of something that's like so depressing that it's oppressive.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you look at that Star Trek one that they did. They did the parody of Star Trek for the Black Mirror for one of the episodes, the one with Jesse Plemons in it. Which, I mean, it's good, but by the same time, it's really cynical and depressing, more so than I think anyone thought it was going to be. It was like, yeah, it's really dark. And again, like, and that's kind of what we do now. Now we skew towards the darkness. So it's so refreshing going back to kind of a safe place within this movie. Literally a safe place. Get it? Anyway, we go back to this, and this breeds a fun and in essence, kind of a healing feeling. That's kind of what the movie is. It's kind of like think about what kind of message this sent to any kids watching this who had lost a mother, or kind of like maybe like either a divorce or like losing a mother in some sense of the word. Just like if you're a kid watching this, it kind of breeds a sense of healing. One can imagine, like, this is how you get through a tough time. But again, it kind of been a more happy-go-lucky kind of like, there's not really uber consequence to this movie. But again, that's a refreshing thing. It conveys what could be, kind of, it conveys something that could be sappy or varnished. I mean, sure, could it be a little streamlined, a little varnished a little bit? Like, basically, I'm sorry, let me rephrase it. It's like the edges of a table. It's like the edge of a table that could be sanded and varnished down a little bit. But you know what? I think those little '90s imperfections, they add character and a history to it. That's a nice table within a nice house, one could say.
That's a way to look at it, Dragon. Yep. Oh yeah, like I said at the beginning here, folks, I don't think I have quite as big of a nostalgic connection to this one as Dragon does. Mostly because Dragon's kind of the big gadget guy in the room. In terms of DCOM nostalgia, I lean more towards like Luck of the Irish, Johnny Tsunami, stuff of that ilk. Even Xenon. I know Katie Garland is also a fan of Xenon. I think next year we should definitely get Katie on to do Xenon. But I digress. This is a good time though. It is. It's a very lean, mean, condensed. You know me, Dragon. I like my short run times when they're done well, and I think this is done well. Katie Seagal, like I said, I keep saying it, and I'll say it one more time. I do think that this might be one of the best Katie Seagal performances of her career, and it's high concept. It's fun. It's got a loose Disneyland tie, which I appreciate. And just overall, I feel like it represents this early era of the DCOM quite well, and I feel like it was a good choice to go out on.
All
right. Well, folks, the party has come to an end, for now at least, but don't you change that channel. We'll be back next year with another original slate of films from DCOM-ARAMA.
DCOM-ARAMA.